This is the Hyundai Palisade. When it's released later this year, it'll be Hyundai's biggest and most expensive SUV. It will sell for around 3.5 million pesos. I got to check it out at this year's Manila International Auto Show. Let me give you a tour. On the outside, the Palisade looks like a much bigger Santa Fe. While the Santa Fe is a 5 plus 2 seater, the Palisade is a true 7 seater. The third row seats can actually accommodate normal sized adults and 3 normal sized adults at that. The front looks very similar to Hyundai's most recent crossovers, like the Santa Fe and the Kona. Like the Santa Fe and the Kona, these are not the headlights. These are the turn signals. The LED headlights are down here at the bumper. And perhaps the most eye-catching part of the front end are these vertical daytime running lights that run through the top and bottom lights. The grille looks massive, and it looks like it's made of metal blocks. Also, it appears to be made of actual metal, unlike most grilles, which are made of chrome-plated plastic. Overall, the front end of the car looks very imposing. Viewed from the side, the Palisade has a pretty boxy, squared-off look, reminiscent of bigger American SUVs like the Explorer. The sides are not as avant-garde as the front. The lines are mostly straight. The window line garnish strangely has a gap over here. The top garnish doesn't connect to the bottom one. Okay. At the back, it has LED tail lamps, and then the Palisade has these aluminum garnishes right next to the tail lamps with thin horizontal strips of light running across them. The word Palisade is displayed in big bold letters at the back. The vehicle will come with 20-inch wheels wrapped in 245 50 series tires. The Palisade is a pretty large vehicle. Unlike the Fortuner and the Montero, which are the most popular SUVs here, this is not a pickup-based SUV. It is a large crossover, like the Santa Fe. So it'll probably have better ride quality than pickup-based SUVs like the Fortuner and the Montero. In the US, the Palisade will be competing against vehicles like the Ford Explorer. But here in the Philippines, it will be offered with a 2.2-liter diesel, which will give it a competitive edge over the Explorer, which is only offered with a gasoline engine. And we all know how Filipinos love diesels. The 2.2-liter diesel engine will produce 202 horsepower, and it will be coupled to an 8-speed automatic transmission. The Palisade is 3 inches longer, 3.5 inches wider, and 2 inches taller than the Santa Fe. The vehicle has power folding second and third row seats, which would have been a more convenient feature if the entire process didn't happen so slowly. It takes 15 seconds for the third row seats to go up, and there is no option to manually fold the third row seats. Because the Palisade is 3 inches wider than the Santa Fe, you can actually fit 3 people in the third row seat. Also, the third row seats can be reclined. Like the Santa Fe, the interior of the Palisade also looks and feels pretty luxurious. If you didn't know the price tag of the vehicle, you'd know that you're in a pretty expensive vehicle just by sitting in the front seat for a couple of seconds. There's a good mixture of high quality materials. You have leather, aluminum, and suede, and there aren't a lot of bare plastics. steering wheel feels nice to the touch. It's covered in soft leather, and you have the usual buttons for the infotainment and cruise control. The Palisade has this trim with a crosshatch fiber-like pattern on it. On some of the US models that I've seen, these are brushed aluminum, which I think looks a lot better. The trim is on the center console, as well as along the dashboard. Instead of having a shifter, the Palisade has buttons. There's a button for park, for drive, reverse, and neutral. I can't say that I'm a fan of the setup, but it does have its advantages. One advantage is that it frees up a lot of space on the center console. I like the fact that it has actual buttons for the infotainment system, instead of being entirely touchscreen reliant. The buttons have a satisfying click to them when you press them. It looks like they're made of aluminum. The vehicle has a 10.5-inch display with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Over here is your knob for the drive modes. It has comfort, snow, sand, mud, sport, eco, etc. You have this covered compartment on the center console. Underneath you have storage space, as well as two retractable cup holders. There is a USB port over here and a wireless charging port for your phone. Storage underneath the armrest is pretty small. The seats are very comfortable. They're covered in quilted leather, which look and feel very expensive. And they have pretty good bolstering. Both front seats are power adjustable. The vehicle has paddle shifters, which are also made of aluminum. The headliner is covered in what looks like Alcantara. Okay, the second row feels as luxurious as the front. I have decent legroom. It has USB ports at the back of the front seats. It has climate control buttons over here, and also buttons for the seat ventilation. It has a 12-volt outlet, as well as an AC power plug. The front passenger seat can be moved from the second row, in case you need more legroom. You have two cup holders on the door armrests. Each passenger will get his or her own retractable armrests. The aircon vents are on the ceiling. It has retractable curtains. The Palisade will come out later this year at 3.5 million pesos it is a bit on the expensive side, and there will only be one variant available locally. But unlike other luxury crossovers at this price range, like the Explorer, the Palisade will be offered with a diesel engine, so no longer will you have to trade luxury for fuel efficiency. The Palisade looks and feels like an expensive vehicle, but does it feel like a 3.5 million peso vehicle? I guess buyers will get to decide that later this year when the Palisade is released.